Coming up on award-winning Hoosier Sports Night, it was a disappointing end to the Indiana basketball season. We have the recap of both NCAA tournaments.
And baseball began Big Ten play at home against Ohio State. This is Hoosier Sports Night.
Hello and welcome to Hoosier Sports Night. I'm Josh Bode.
And I'm Kennedy Rehklau.
Kennedy, did you hear that IUS TV Sports won first place in the IASB video sports program?
I did, and that's the first time ever.
It is. Let's make it 2 times in a row next year. Basketball season has finally come to a close. Both the Hoosiers men's and women's teams were swept out of the tournament by a hurricane. Our Evan Kamiko has more.
Heartbreak in Assembly Hall. Kind of like a hurricane, the road is over for Indiana basketball. 24 hours apart, both the men's and women's team ended their season with losses to the Miami Hurricanes. For the women, it came down to the last possession.
You know, we're disappointed. It stings, it hurts, but it should if you're competitors and it means anything to you, the way these kids work. Like I told them, if they didn't have tears and they weren't emotional, then I would wonder what all of their hard work was for.
For the men, the end of the road came in a blowout.
This one is tough to swallow because I truly believe that this team had a legitimate shot. As a coach, you know, I put so much pressure and heat on myself to get teams over the hump, and I got to take some responsibility for this one.
Well, All-American Trace Jackson Davis finished his career out in Albany. Another Indiana standout senior, Grace Berger, finished her career exactly where it all began.
I loved being a Hoosier every single second of it. It was the best decision I've ever made. You know, I love this program. I love this university. I love my coaches. I love my teammates. And you know, it's sad that it's ending, but I'm just very grateful that it happened.
Just being part of the change, really. Just 2 years ago, we were getting booed in our home city, Indianapolis, off the court at the Big Ten tournament. It's really special to me to have the Indiana fans on your back and just cheering for you and giving them hope. Something that this program hasn't had in a while.
After the disappointing end to the season, both the men's team and women's team will have to wait till 2024 for their one shining moment.
Now it's time for off-season news, and the transfer portal is already hot. On the men's side, Logan Duncombe and Tamar Bates have entered the portal, as has Keandra Brown and Mona Zarich of the women's team. Mike Woodson's team did get a boost with Ball State transfer Peyton Sparks committing to the Hoosiers yesterday. Follow along with all our beat reporters for the latest off-season news.
Indiana baseball got their first Big Ten series sweep of the season this past weekend. Our Kara Adams has more.
Bring out the brooms as the Indiana baseball team swept the Ohio State Buckeyes this weekend in Bloomington to get their first Big Ten series sweep underway. In Game 1, the Hoosiers were down, but redshirt senior Matthew Ellis hit a 3-run home run in the bottom of the 7th to get the Hoosiers the victory.
Getting in here, really challenge yourself in the cages before the games, taking BP series, getting to watch the video on the arms or you're hitting, and just, you know, being home. There's nothing like being home.
In Game 2, it was a back-and-forth battle until IU added a single run in the top of the 7th to give them the lead, and pitcher Craig Yoho finished off the Buckeyes by throwing 2 scoreless innings. IU sophomore Luke Sennard also had lots of success at the mound this weekend.
His velocity was like 93, 96 today. With that mid-80 slider again, and his stuff was incredible.
In Game 3, it was an all-around effort by every Hoosier player to secure the win.
We didn't plan on playing 3 games in 24 hours, but to do that, it was going to take the whole team, and that's what it took. It took the whole team.
The Hoosiers are now on a roll with 14 straight home victories, and they rank number 3 nationally in home winning streaks. They'll look to keep this momentum going into the coming week. For IUS TV Sports, I'm Kara Adams.
The Hoosiers continued this home win streak with a 4-3 win over Kent State Tuesday night. They'll head to College Park this weekend to take on the Nittany Lions in another Big Ten weekend series.
Last night, Indiana softball traveled up north to take on rival Purdue in a doubleheader. IUS TV softball reporter Emma Watson has more.
The hot streak continues. On Wednesday, the Indiana softball team swept rivals Purdue in a doubleheader by scores of 8-5 and 5-4. In both games, the Hoosiers had to come from behind to win, but according to the team, all they need is a spark.
I mean, I think our offense just knows that however many runs we get down, we're going to come back, we're going to punch back, we're going to get more than they ever are going to get. So just to have each other's backs up at the plate is really special.
You know, I believe we can come back any amount, right? I believe we can string hits together. I believe we have the best hitting team in the Big Ten. We weren't playing like we believed some of those things. We were super tight. We weren't relaxed. And so my job as a coach is to make sure that that they understand what their beliefs are, right? And I help them just give their best effort. And I thought tonight we saw some great things up and down our lineup.
Taryn Kern, the three-time Big Ten Freshman of the Week, continued her hot streak with 2 home runs in the first game. However, in the second game, it was fellow freshmen Avery Parker and Sophie Kleiman who sealed the win.
Game 2, our base running did some good things for us, and we clutched up when we needed to. And how about Sophie? Man, you know, just biding her time. She shined tonight, pretty bright, super proud. Taryn Kern, what are you going to say about her? How many times are they going to walk? I mean, talk about respect. You know, she took control game 1, game 2. They didn't give her a shot. So she said, hey, you're not going to pitch me. I'll make a play here. So she made a game-changing play here. So I thought we made some sudden change plays. I thought, man, Avery Parker giving us that insurance run. Super proud of her group.
When I asked Coach Stanton what drives this Indiana win streak, she only had one word to say: belief.
I believe, why not us, Indiana, right? It's a long season, it's early, but I like where we're sitting. And I believe this team, if we continue to stay on mission and we continue to fight and stay within the process one pitch at a time, why not go out and try and win a Big Ten title?
With these results, Indiana has now tied the program's single-season win streak record. They'll have a chance at lucky number 19 on Friday versus Ohio State. Reporting for IUS TV Sports, I'm Emma Watson.
Next up on the schedule, Indiana has a weekend series against Ohio State as they continue Big Ten play.
The men's and women's swim and dive teams competed in the NCAA championships earlier this month. The women's team tied their program record with a 7th place finish thanks to 5 podium performances on the last night. That included 2 silver medals and a program record-setting relay that bumped them from 10th place to 7th. The men's team also finished in the top 7, placing 4th overall. Sophomore sensation Carson Tyler took the title in the platform dive, and Olympic medalist Andrew Capobianco earned his 3rd career title in the 3-meter dive. Brendan Burns won the 100 backstroke and broke the program and pool record with his performance.
Coming up after the break, we crown our Hoosier Highlight Athlete of the Week.
And we have more on water polo, tennis, and more. You're watching Hoosier Sports Night.
Welcome back to Hoosier Sports Night.
Now joining us for this week's Hoosier Highlight is IUS TV sports reporter Drew Rosenberg. Drew?
Thanks, Josh and Kennedy. Indiana softball swept number 22 ranked Maryland this past weekend at home, and our Athlete of the Week was crucial to getting the sweep. For the newly ranked number 24 Hoosiers, sophomore first baseman Sarah Stone has been a big part of the 17-game winning streak. Stone started the series with a walk-off RBI single in the 7th inning to give IU the 2-1 victory. In Game 2, she went 2 for 4 at the plate with 4 RBIs, including a 3-run home run. Stone finished the series going 2 for 3 at the plate with 2 more home runs and 5 RBIs to help the Hoosiers complete the sweep against Maryland. It was Stone's first 2-home-run game as a Hoosier, as she continues to build off a stellar freshman season last year. With Team 50 hosting Ohio State in a 3-game series this weekend, the Hoosiers will look to Stone to provide offense and build off what has been an impressive start to the season. Josh, back to you.
Thanks, Drew. The Indiana women's water polo team was back in California this past weekend for games against number 2 USC and Whittier. Against Southern California, the Hoosiers had no answer for the Trojan attack. USC tallied 11 steals and 16 goals, giving them a 16-4 win, moving to 20-1 on the year. Despite a tough offensive performance against USC, Indiana had an opportunity to bounce back against Whittier in their second game of the day. The offense came up huge as freshman Nicole Tyner scored a hat trick in the first half. She would not be the only Hoosier to get in on the massive offensive showing as 15 different Hoosiers scored a goal in the 25-2 blowout win. The Hoosiers have a chance to keep it going against the Arizona State Sun Devils this Saturday in the Councilman Billingsley Aquatic Center.
Now joining us in studio to share a special look at what it's like being a track athlete is IUS TV sports reporter Joe Cronin. Joe?
Thanks, Kennedy. Running is oftentimes seen as a training mechanism to get better at a sport or to become more in shape. But when running is your sport like it is for the Indiana track team, the limits are stretched to what humans are truly capable of. It takes a different type of dedication and love to be like Big Ten medalist Jenna Barker of the Indiana track team.
Yeah, when you've been doing this for so long, you kind of become immune to numbers. And so when I tell people I run 65 miles, they're like, that's insane. And I'm like, oh yeah, it kind of is. You just kind of have to stop and think about it for a little bit.
The truth about running is how not every person can manage that type of load. An associate professor at the School of Public Health, Dr. Allison Gruber, addresses some of the realities.
I think the multifactorial aspects of running injury are why we haven't really, after 40 plus years of research, why we haven't found a consistent set of risk factors or even a single risk factor that would help us to prevent all running injuries.
For Barker, it took some adversity to find that perfect sweet spot in her training where injuries were no longer a factor.
Last year during cross country, my coaches decided to bump my mileage up. I was around 65, I was working really well, so they're like, hey, we're gonna bump you up to 72. And it just was not working for me. I was extremely exhausted all the time. My performances were just not going well at all. I did have sort of nagging shin splints, nagging hamstring issues.
With so much individuality that the risks of running pose onto different athletes, there has been somewhat of a common ground found from the Hoosier squad.
It was a transition from cross country to indoor track. With cross country, you know, we're out on the cross course, which is grass. You're on your soft surfaces, and so it doesn't beat up like your legs near as much. And then when you transition, obviously, to the track, the paces are a lot quicker, and so you're doing a lot more of high intensity. But then also you are in spikes and you're pounding on the ground, and so a lot of people will start seeing injuries pop up once we transition to indoor track, which is right around like December.
Whether it's for sport, training, or just the way you get your everyday exercise, running is extremely beneficial to humans.
There is evidence to suggest that running is a by far optimal mode of exercise to improve longevity, combat chronic disease, reduce risk of all-cause mortality.
In order to better understand your own self, why not go for a run? It's good for you. IUS TV Sports, Joe Cronin. With the best ability being availability, and to find that pocket that pushes yourself while staying healthy could be the most important factor for the track team and for all athletes in general. Kennedy, back to you.
Thanks, Joe. The Indiana men's tennis team opened up Big Ten play with a clean 7-0 sweep of Purdue in West Lafayette this past weekend. IU has been solid at home, but had lost all 5 of their away matches, which included 2 top 25 teams. Against Purdue, senior Pat Fletchell and freshman sensation Sam Landau once again led the way with straight set wins in singles. Senior Luka Vukovic went the distance, taking a 12-10 deciding set tiebreaker. Vukovic also teamed with freshman Ikanj Kumar to clinch the doubles point for the Hoosiers. The team returns home to host 3 matches this weekend against number 24 ranked Northwestern, number 22 Illinois, and St. Louis.
Indiana women's tennis traveled to State College to face the 55th ranked Penn State Nittany Lions this past weekend. The Hoosiers struggled out of the gate, losing both number 1 and 3 doubles 6-2 and 6-1. In singles, Penn State dominated from the start, quickly winning 3 straight matches to seal their victory over the Indiana Hoosiers. Freshman Nicole Teodescu won the first set of her number 5 singles match, but struggled to close out her match. The Hoosiers will be back in action tomorrow against the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Follow along with Sam Brunsman, Dylan Traeger, and Michael Livingston for updates.
Now joining us with this week's Candy Stripe calendar report is IUS TV sports reporter Victoria Rhemrev. Victoria?
Thanks, guys. It's another exciting weekend for IU athletics. To kickstart this jam-packed weekend, the Indiana track and field team will lace up in Gainesville to compete in the Pepsi Florida Relays. The women's tennis team travels to Lincoln to take on the Nebraska Cornhuskers. We continue Friday on the hard courts as the men's tennis team hosts Northwestern here in Bloomington. The Hoosiers travel to State College, Pennsylvania, where the men's baseball team takes on Penn State. The women's softball team face the Ohio State Buckeyes in Bloomington on our home base. IU hits the ground running again on Saturday for the next round of the Pepsi Florida Relays. The ball is back in play in Pennsylvania and Bloomington as the baseball and softball teams continue their series against Penn State and Ohio State. We round out Saturday in the water as the women's water polo team competes against the Sun Devils at Arizona State. Sunday tees off at the Chattanooga Classic for the women's golf team. The women's tennis team travels to Iowa to take on the Hawkeyes to finish their weekend strong. The racket keeps swinging back in Bloomington as the men's tennis team face off against Illinois and St. Louis. The women's soccer team will kick back into gear as they travel to play against Cincinnati. This weekend action is far from over for IU athletics. The men's baseball team will conclude their series with Penn State, while the women's softball team closes out their 3-day series against the Ohio State Buckeyes right here in Bloomington. That's a wrap for our Candy Stripe calendar. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Victoria. And that's our show for the week. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter at IUSTV Sports to keep up with all the latest in IU athletics. For our production crew behind us, I'm Kennedy Rehklau.
And I'm Josh Bode. We'll see you next week.